Okay, good morning, everybody, especially students in the international class of public policy and management. Today, we would like to talk about fiscal decentralization. This is the fifth session of the lectures under the subject of public budgeting. So, in this session, we would like to talk about at least four topics, four important topics. First, we will be talking about whether fiscal decentralization is really important in now and in the future, and now how has been it is implemented in Indonesian context. I'm sure that many of you also understand that this is the typical problem in not only in Indonesia but also in many developing countries. And we will be also talking about subnational government budgeting, and finally the issue of how to strike a balance between centralization and decentralization. First, why is it that decentralization is important for Indonesia? Of course, we will be seeing this from many perspectives, but one of the most important is the geographical, issue that we also observe in Indonesia. First, we have really a big size in terms of the area of this country, so it is almost impossible for us to control all the regions, all the provinces, and also all the districts that is separated by sea, and we have more than 13,000 islands in Indonesia. With last year, we have 262 million people, and the problem is, of course, aside from the fact that we really have a big country in terms of the size and also the population, the population is not really evenly distributed. Let's say, for example, Java Island is only around 7% of the whole area of the whole lands in Indonesia, but it is inhabited by 61.7%. You can imagine that the problem of unequal or unbalanced distribution of the population is one of the problem. So that we really need to, spread out the population in this case. And also from the chart, you can see that Java Island, which only constitutes about 7%, is inhabited by too many people in Indonesia. So there is a very good reason in 1998 when finally, after we have been able to replace the New Order government under Suharto to a more, democratic, more egalitarian, and more open system of government. And starting from after Suharto, he was replaced by President Habibie, and then he was then also replaced by consecutive 4 presidents, Abdurrahman Wahid, Megawati, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and currently now we have Joko Widodo as the president. But in 1999, or precisely, the implementation was taken. The implementation was started in 2001. Gus Dur or Abdurrahman Wahid was the one who was in charge for implementing the policy, and then it was followed up by President Megawati under still turbulence and a bit chaotic governance at the time. As you know, that within 6 years we really experienced a kind of turbulence because we had 3 presidents, and with the assumption of the year of power by President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono in 2004, we hope that things will be more stable because, as you know, SBY or Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono was the president for 2 periods, and now we are also having another 2 periods under President Joko Widodo. But one thing that is important to consider when we talk about fiscal decentralization is the fact that if we did not decentralize, then many problems was not really been able to tackle. Let's say, for example, from the chart number 9, you can see that the intergovernmental fiscal gap during Suharto New Order was really a big problem in late 1966, when the level of revenue from the central government to the local government was at about the same. It was slowly widening up. It was slowly yawning to the extent that in late 1980s, for example, more than 24,000 billion, more than 24 trillion rupees was acquired by the central government, and only about 2,000 billion or 2 trillion was input for the subnational government. So that's the reason why is it that in 1999, with the law number 25 of 1999, we could finally decentralize many of the fiscal aspects. And you could see from the law, for example, that the central government previously, which accumulate about almost 100% of the revenue from oil, finally it was reduced to only 85% of the revenue from oil, and from the LPG, only about 70%, and the other 30% was allocated for the subnational government. So that's important, at least because unlike in the past, in which all the revenues was accumulated to the central government, starting from 1999, at least from this law number 25 of 1999, we have been able to, to decentralize, to give away a certain portion of the state revenue to the province and to the kabupaten and district level. And you can see from the next chart that in the past it was only 10% of the government budget is actually run by the central government. In 2010, it is about 1/3, about 30% of the revenue has been able to be undertaken or to be managed by the subnational government. In the first year of the fiscal decentralization, of course, we had so much problem because the provincial and the subnational and the kabupaten and district level of government was not, accustomed to, make their own budget. So that, let's say from the next charts, you could see in 2005, in the period between 2005 and 2009, for example, many of the subnational government budget spending was not really appropriately spent because of inexperience among the local government officials. But again, we can also see another problem because lack of capacities among the subnational government was also still a problem, as you can see from the personnel distribution up until now. Maybe many of the the good officials are actually only resided in Java and Sumatra and some part of the western Indonesia, and we really need to have more effort to disperse out the capable staff to other island. And that is the reason why even the budget cycle in the central government, which tend to be lopsided when we talk about disbursement. Only a little amount of money that was able to be allocated in the first months of the fiscal year. Mostly they are allocated in October, November, or in December, and such kind of bad experience is also replicated in the subnational government. That is the reason why is it that the provincial and also the local government, so to say, emulate things that has been carried out by the central government officials. But one of the important thing of the fiscal decentralization is the fact that it has also a political significance, to the extent that it could actually solve the problem of distrust among the local government elites or subnational politicians, subnational government politician. And you can see that at least now with the special funds for Aceh and for Papua, things has been well settled at least. And although we have already lost East Timor, for example, we could retain Aceh and Papua to be within the Indonesian territory, to remain in the Indonesian state. But the problem of poverty in these two provinces, you can see from the chart here in chart number 16, the issue of poverty in these two provinces is really worse in comparison to other provinces, although we have been trying to allocate more funds in these two respective provinces. Another issue that we could also relate with the capacity of the subnational government is, at least I listed out 7 issues in local budgeting. First, that majority of the district depends on central government transfer, and it's not really healthy, of course. But how to build the capacity among the subnational government officials is really a big task for us. And we could also see that after decentralization, we tend to split many of the provinces and also kabupaten and cities. And after splitting, human resource and infrastructures have become, of course, the immediate issues. Even after we, try to give a way to delegate, fiscal authorities to the subnational government, it's not really easy for them to really carry out the fiscal function within their territory. So that is the reason why the PAD, genuine revenues on average, is still very low at 23% of the total local budget commonly. And of course, many technical issues are also still there. Let's say, for example, we have a problem of data collection. We have a problem of complaint handling with regards to the budget, local budget, or we call it APBD in Indonesian term. We have also been, facing with issues in controlling and also law enforcement. All right, the remaining question in Indonesia with regard to fiscal decentralization, I have here at least 6 issues that has to be tackled in Indonesia. First, of course, the general conclusion that we can make is that over-centralization during the relatively long administration that was under New Order government under Suharto has incurred a great loss. The problem is now how to prevent center-periphery exploitation without endangering national unity. So that's one really most important question. How we can prevent, feeling that they are being exploited among the provincial as well as the local government, municipality and the district level. Second, how should Indonesia manage its natural resources? Because as we can see, natural resources is unevenly distributed in many areas. You can see that, for example, East Kalimantan is very rich in terms of natural resources. But on the other hand, when we talk about East Nusa Tenggara, for example, they really lack of natural resources, and also the climate is not really favorable. The land is not really fertile, so there are a lot of problems with that. And of course, point number 3 and point number 4 is also important. How to make sure that the decentralization is being followed by the capacity building adequate for making sure that the subnational government, in this case provincial as well as district level of government, will be able to take up the new function in budgeting, in public budgeting, instead of only capturing the opportunity. We hope that all these political elites at the local level will be able to to deliver their promises to the local polity. And that is why, just like what has been said by Fredericks in 1980s, that the dilemma is between administrative development and developing administration. Which one should be the first? And in this case, we can actually see that both has to be really carried out. We have to develop our administrative capacity. At the same time, we also have to decentralize to make sure that fiscal policy is not only belong to the central government. It has to be involving local politicians, because of the issue that I have already mentioned earlier, the fact that we have a dispersed and a big size in the country. Now, another problem that we have also considered is to make sure that when we have vertical imbalances, something that we are trying to solve it with fiscal decentralization between central and then provinces and then the local level, the vertical imbalances has been able to be at least partly solved by fiscal decentralization policy. But what about horizontal imbalances? I mentioned earlier that the fact that natural resources is not really evenly distributed among the regions. So if we only give out the authority to Central Kalimantan or East Kalimantan, or maybe Papua or Aceh, which has really abundant of natural resources, then we actually leave out other provinces that are lacking in terms of natural resources. So that is the issue that I think you as the future leaders in Indonesia and development countries will be challenging for most of you. I think that would be the thing that we need to discuss in this session. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Bye-bye.